back. We're talking to Dr. Riera today, and curious now about, we're talking about his book, actually, Connecting with Your Teenager and Communication. And in his book, you talk about questions and the types of questions we ask our children. And, you know, I really related to what you said because I was doing all the wrong things. So one of the things you said in terms of mindsets to be in was learn to think like an anthropologist and get curious. And that will help us as parents shift the type of questions we're asking.
Right.
Talk to us about that.
Sure. Many parents end up asking questions that are interrogating more than anything. You know, did you do your homework? Outcome-based questions. And anthropologists want to understand. They're curious. They're infinitely curious. They want to understand what your thinking was, what was going on there. They ask, I call them questions that linger. There's not a quick answer to it. So when I go, I said about a test, instead of what grade did you get on the history test, was it a good history test? They might say, well, yeah, it was a good test. I got an A. No, I don't care about the grade. It was a good test. Well, what do you mean? Did you learn anything? When you a good test makes you put the information together in a new way. Did you learn anything on it? Or when they did the painting, how did you know the painting was done? You know, what was it, a feeling? Was it just how did you know that you were done with it? Or in sports, instead of always did you win the game or how many goals did you score, where did you surprise yourself today? Where did you let yourself down? I saw in the game your teammate made a bad play, and I know you wanted to yell at him, but instead you went over and encouraged him. How did you get yourself to do that? Or when the referee made a bad call, in the past you've gotten penalties then, but here I saw you dig down deep and work harder at it. How did you do that? They won't have an answer. In part, they may not have even realized it. But what this does is, I'm a big believer in integrity, integrity at base means whole. We're a whole person. And you have to bring all our parts to bear on the things we do. What you're doing then is helping your adolescent become richer and a more complete person, as opposed to the interrogation, which just are based on outcome. The other thing it gets you to do, I would say, be really careful about how much you praise your teenager. And I know we are all read all the self-esteem stuff and praise them for being good and everything. And the research doesn't hold that. What the research says, if you're going to praise their effort. Don't praise the outcome. You know, I like the way you hustled. I like the way you studied hard. I like the way you hang in there with your friends, because effort is completely within their control. You know, their IQ and things like that is outside of their control. And the reality is effort means so much more and is so much a more reliable predictor of well-being and doing well in the long run than intelligence or athletic ability. It's that ability to work hard and hang in there, especially when things get confusing.
Yeah, and I think that relates to what you were saying about integrity and that thought that we need to help our children learn how to get out of integrity and get back into it. That was kind of hard for me to hear.
Well, the thing is, they will get out of integrity on their own, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's good, because they have to learn what it feels like to be out of integrity and then how to get back into it. So I know one of the things you wanted to talk about was consequences, too, when kids do something wrong. And I'm a believer in natural consequences. And they get our kids' attention, and they teach them how to fix relationships. You need to do something after you've made a mistake in something. You need to make it better somehow. But it doesn't necessarily foster the ability for them to make better decisions later on. So what I really believe, and I think every parent believes this in their heart, is their children, at whatever age they are, know the right things to do for themselves relative to that age. So if somebody knows the right thing to do, it makes no sense to lecture them on the right thing to do. Instead, it's better to ask the question, when you were late for curfew, when you cheated on the test, whenever you put whatever in there, was there a part of you that said, bad idea, shouldn't do it, or should call home or something? I mean, 99.9% of kids, after they've sort of been caught and acknowledged it, will say, yeah, there's a part of me that said I shouldn't have done that or I should have called you. And then the whole relationship changes, because now it's not power. Now I come around to the side and I say, well, that's what concerns me. There's a part of you that knew the right thing to do, and you didn't listen to yourself. What stops you from listening to yourself? And this will throw them, well, all right. Well, what did you say? You say, well, there's a part of you that knew, let's say they were late for the curfew, that you should have called, and you didn't. How come you didn't listen to that part and make the call? Well, I don't know. Okay, that's fair. That's something to think about. Because bottom line, I want you to listen to the part of you that knows what's right for you, because that's always available to you. I'm not always available to you. And now it's all about them. It's not about power. It takes longer, But it shows them when they're out of integrity, if they pay attention to themselves, they'll know what to do to get back into it.
Which is a real shift, because I think we tend to take it personally.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
get
yeah.
angry and when in reality we should look at our teens as to say, great, they're asserting their independence, they're making choices. But we get personal, we get angry, and we start to lecture, and they tune out. So
Yeah, the truth is, parents don't want to hear this, but kids feel like the lecture is just part of the consequence.
yeah.
They're not learning anything from it. And what you said before, I would underline it 100 times. Don't take it personally. It's not really about us. It's about them learning how to do things. And when the communication is going well, what we're doing more than anything is failure analysis, helping them to understand what went wrong. And the only way this can happen is in the tones that we're talking with each other now. When the emotion kicks in, the way with what's going on with teenagers' brains, they're not going to hear any logic that you have to say. So as soon as your teenager gets emotional, or you get emotional, that's the time to stop the conversation. That's why I say do it in short bursts of about 3 minutes, because that's about how long both teenager and parent can go talking about a particularly hot issue without getting emotional about it.
And to choose your timing when you're more calm and they're more receptive.
And that's why the late at night and the car are the two best times, because the car, they're a captive audience, and late at night, their defenses are down, and they're much more willing to address these things.
Yeah, and it's tough for us parents because we're going to have to be more creative about consequences.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was interesting when you said something about the types of consequences you should give are what?
I think it's ideally, and it's never always ideal, that it's them doing something. It's not taking something away, it's them doing something, because it's saying they made a mistake, now they need to make it better through some sort of action. So they're late for curfew, they owe you that time by doing some chore around the house. They were mean to their younger brother, so they need to take their younger brother somewhere to do something. That you have to reach out and to try to make up for that. Hopefully they take that in the long run, that in their relationships with friends and later on if they get married, about how you work through these relationships with other people in your life, because you're always going to have arguments and disagreements. That's not what a great relationship. A great relationship is you know how to work them through and become deeper because of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, this has been great stuff.
Oh,
really good
more than
takeaway.
welcome.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. I know so many parents out there really wanted to see the presentation today, or maybe they saw it and they want more. So I'm hoping they'll go to your website. I know you have a website.
Oh, sure. It's just MikeRiera.com.
Okay, and certainly check out the Samaritan Counseling Center of the Northwest Suburbs for upcoming workshops on parenting and other audios and MP3 downloads for parents. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.